So today we're going to introduce the first of these sets of theories of personality. So the first one we're going to talk about today is a trait-based theory. The first thing you need to know about the 5-factor trait theory is it does not try to tell you how you got your personality. It doesn't try to tell you how to change your personality if you don't like it. All it tries to do is describe personality accurately, and we can then use that to track personality over time. So we can see what happens to these different traits over the course of a typical adult's lifespan. What are those little degree changes? So the book has a number of different researchers that they talk about with trait theories. I do think it's important to know that history just a little bit. Costa and McCrae, who are the two researchers in your textbook, did not conceive of the 5-factor model in a vacuum. They're actually building on the work of many other people before them, like Allport and Patel, that are talked about in your textbook. They also did not create this by themselves. Like many findings in science, a completely different research team found the same thing independently. They were just the first to publish. So, like Darwin, they get all the credit and all the other people do not. So, what did Costa and McCrae do? Well, there was an existing inventory of items that asked people about different behaviors. What is personality? It's a consistent pattern of behavior, right? So they would ask people about their different behaviors. Questions were things like, I like to be the center of attention. True or false? I hate crowds. True or false? I like mystery novels. True or false? Just tons of different questions about behaviors, thoughts, feelings about different topics. Thousands of questions. So what they did was they had thousands of people take those thousands of questions. Then they fed their responses into a statistical program to run what's called a factor analysis. And essentially what the program does is it looks to see if there are patterns in responses. And what the program found was there were 5 patterns of responses, 5 sets of questions that clustered together that people would tend to answer in similar patterns. Not everybody all the same, but if you answered that you hate crowds, you would say that you don't like to be the center of attention, for example. And so through this, they looked at those clusters. They came up with the 5 factors. We're going to use the acronym OCEAN to help you remember them. These 5 factors were the basis of the personality test I asked you to take. So if you have those test results and you want to pull them up, we're going to talk about the different factors, and you can kind of look and see how you compared. So your test results, I'm going to go back to that first slide. You can just write on there. Okay. Your test result is essentially telling you you have some level of every single one of these traits. Your results are going to tell you, are you kind of in the middle? Are you low? Are you high? But everybody has some degree of each one of these traits. This is what your personality is. And those are unique. So the person sitting next to you has different levels. Now you guys might overlap in one, but you have a unique collection of levels of each one of these personality traits. So the test results are probably going to tell you something like you're high on this, you're low on this, you're kind of in the middle on that one. That's what those results mean. So let's go through each one real quick. We'll have time to do that, I think, if we're fast enough, and talk about what they mean. So let's start with the O, openness to experience. So people who are high on openness are creative, they're curious, they're flexible, they like to try new things. They tend to have some imagination, fantasy, artisticness at sort of the highest of the levels of this. They don't like to just do things because that's how they did them in the past or they did it that way last time. This is the person who, when they go out to eat, orders something different every time. Try something new, right? Let's not go to that same restaurant. We've been to that restaurant. Let's try a new restaurant. Low on openness are people who are rigid and conventional. They like sameness. They don't like different. They don't like to try new things. They're pretty down to earth, practical, not overly creative kinds of thinkers. So any questions about openness? So every one of you has some level, high, low, or in the middle. They're conscientious. Conscientious people like to do things the way they are supposed to be done. And there is a way that things are supposed to be done. They are very organized, dependable, disciplined, punctual. My guess is this particular population of high school students is probably different than the average student, because as honors students, conscientiousness is something that you had to have to kind of get into the honors program in the first place, a degree of it at least. If you didn't get your paperwork turned in on time, you're not going to make it in, right? There's a degree of conscientiousness that was required. But an interesting thing about conscientiousness is being in college makes you more conscientious than you were when you started. So as a group, we measured everybody's conscientiousness before college, and after graduation, as a group, you would all have moved a little bit higher. Now, that person who came in through the roof already, they're not going to move much by college. But as a group, we see that the experience of being in college pushes your personality and shapes you to be more conscientious than you were before you started. Low conscientiousness doesn't like to follow the rules, may appear disorganized, messy. They don't care about meeting deadlines. If it's important, I'll do it and I'll get it done when I get it done. And if I don't get it done, and that's fine, because your rules don't matter to me, society. Other people may find them not to be as dependable, because I can't count on them to do the thing that they said we were going to do when they were going to do it. So every one of you has some degree of this. Like I said, I would guess that as a class, you guys are probably on the higher end, just because this is an honors class. Extroversion. Extroversion is a word that has many different meanings. It has a complicated history, this word. In fact, there's a podcast I like to listen to called Science Diction. They did a whole episode recently on extroversion, introversion. So if you're really into words, it's a cool episode. In this particular case, it has a particular meaning. It has to do with the expression of positive emotions. So the people who are highest on this, I think of your kindergarten teacher. Everybody's kindergarten teacher. Hi, class, how are you? How is everybody doing today? Okay. You probably had somebody like that, right? That's like almost every kindergarten teacher I've ever known. They're outgoing, they're upbeat, they're enthusiastic, they're very social. There's no frowny faces in this classroom. Let's turn that frown upside down, right? Like all this positive emotion, maybe too much for some of us. Maybe some of us are like, tone it down a little bit. But lots of positive emotions. Also associated with this is assertiveness. The person who, when you're put together in a group of people and you're like, okay, here's the task. Who's the person that's like, okay, let's organize, let's get this done. What do you think? Who's going to do this? They're like the band leader, right? They like get everything moving. Sometimes people find that to be a little too much, like stop bossing me around and telling me what to do. But that personality type, again, tends to have a lot of positive emotions, but also that assertiveness piece there that some people may find abrasive. The opposite of this is not unhappy. So it's not happy versus unhappy. That's not it. The opposite of this is more reserved, withdrawn, passive, more likely to just kind of sit on the edges of the group, not jump in and start leading the group. On the extreme ends, they might be a loner and not be a joiner in any way at all. Kind of just passive, fit in the background. Doesn't mean they're unhappy. They're just outwardly expressing their happiness in your face. This is probably the person who doesn't like that overly aggressive happiness, right? Like, whoa, turn it down. So you all have some level of that one. Agreeableness. High levels of agreeableness. People are cooperative. They're trying to like get everybody balanced and let's find the middle ground here. They're very straightforward. People who are highly agreeable do not play games. There's no hidden meaning behind what they say or do. And highly agreeable people don't even get that other people have hidden meaning. They're like, I don't, like, why? It doesn't make any sense. Just, if you're mad, tell me you're mad. Don't tell me you're not mad and then do all this other crap. Like, just tell me you're mad, right? Straightforward people are like that. They can be trusting because they don't see that other people might be trying to manipulate them. And so they may be a little overly trusting. They believe what people tell them because they tell people what they think. They think everybody else tells them what they think too. Low are suspicious because they think everything you're doing or saying is a game, and they're constantly looking for what is the hidden meaning that I'm supposed to read between the lines between what you're doing. You say you're fine, but I don't really think you're fine because nobody ever says what they really think. So if you said you're fine, that must mean you're really mad. Dude, I'm fine. Like, what is your problem? Okay? So they have that kind of suspiciousness of others. They like to get their way. So they may be a little ruthless. Like, no, we're not going to negotiate on this. We're not going to come to the middle ground. There's right and there's wrong, and my way was right. So no, you highly agreeable, trying to find the middle ground person, this is the way. Do it my way. They may be a little arrogant and they may be a little irritable about this, right? So they may project a little bit of irritation with others. And the last one, make sure we get through all of them today, is neuroticism. Neuroticism is another one of those words I don't like because it has so many different meanings in psychology. In this case, neuroticism, high neuroticism is associated with experiencing negative emotions, anxiety, feeling anxious, vulnerable, insecure, self-conscious. The hostility comes from that place. Hostility oftentimes comes out of fear. So I feel vulnerable. I'm like the cat backed into the corner. And what am I going to do? I'm going to be hostile. I'm going to react out of that sense of vulnerability. So people who have high levels of neuroticism tend to feel a little anxious and insecure. Low levels don't equal happy. Low levels equal steady, calm, and not super emotionally reactive. They're very even-tempered. So if they're having a disagreement with someone, the other person may be saying, "Oh my gosh, this is my point." And this low neuroticism person would be like, "Yeah, but I don't disagree. I don't agree with you. I just disagree." "Yeah, but where's your passion?" "I don't need passion. You're just wrong and I just disagree with you. So I'm like not emotionally invested in this. This is me. I'm stable. You? Woohoo! All over the place. Me? I'm a rock." Some people may find low neuroticism to also be unemotional. Like, feel something. Like, you're too robotic on the really extreme levels. So, here's my final point before I let you guys go. Every one of you has some level of these things. While some of the descriptive terms may sound somewhat negative, there is no wrong personality. All personalities are just who you are. Having your personality and your environment be a good fit, such as in job selection, can help you be more successful. But the most important part of your personality that will lead to the best success and outcomes is if it has some degree of flexibility. So in my personal private life, I'm not super extroverted. I have to kind of turn it up a little bit more than is natural when I'm teaching a class, right? But when I'm on my own, I'm going to be more in the corner, right? So I can flex my personality to fit the situation. Doesn't change the core of who I am, you know. I'm not going to go from who I am to that really annoying kindergarten teacher, right? Because that's not who I am. But I can flex just a little bit.